Were you as alarmed as I was when you read that New York Post article that heroin chic is back in? What? Are we back to skinny? Is your body a trend? Are we back to the 90s? Haven't we moved on since then? Is skinny back in? Let's take a look. Trigger warning though, I'm going to be discussing dieting, disordered eating, body image, so if you think that this might be triggering, then switch over to another video. I'm Lara, the food freedom psychologist, and I can help you create a healthy and happy relationship with food without guilt or stress eating. I hope you're enjoying my videos and getting so much value from them. If you are, be sure to click the like button, subscribe to my channel, and hit that little bell notification so that you can find out every time I post a new video. Side note here, if you are feeling overwhelmed and out of control around food, then sign up to my Food Freedom Masterclass. The details are in the links below and it looks like this. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. When I saw this headline, I felt really depressed, mortified, sad, outraged. How could we be going back to this? How is the Kate Moss look back in? How? So let's start with this idea that a body type can be back in. Are our bodies a trend? Can they be a trend? Categorically no, your body is not a trend. I probably don't need to spell this out for you, but bodies come in all shapes and sizes. We are tall and short and fat and thin. We are somewhere in the middle. Some people have the genetic ability to create abs, others don't. Sadly though, fashion, patriarchy, whatever it is, seems to think that our bodies are a trend. Just check this out. The beauty ideal has changed so much over the decades. Let's go back in time and take a look. So in the 1920s, women were beautiful if they were flat-chested and had narrow hips. By the 1930s, the waist was back in and a slightly more curvaceous look was in. By the 1950s, the hourglass shape was in and a much curvier look was fashionable. In the 1960s, we were back to a much more petite woman with narrow hips. The 1980s, the rise of the supermodel, where long legs and toned arms were in. 1990s, we're back to that waif look. The early 2000s saw the rise of abs and exposing your midriff. And since the 2010s, it's been all about boobs and booty. But what we see as this beauty ideal is really just media and fashion's idea of what beauty is. As you can see, it's totally subjective and seems to change with every decade. So these beauty ideals only exist because a group of powerful men have decided that that's what's in. Are we seeing a return to skinny? Are we going back to skinny being in? Now, I grew up in the 1990s where being thin was very much the norm. I don't know if you've watched Bridget Jones's Diary, where she was supposedly overweight. I remember the hoo-ha in the media about the enormous amount of weight that Renée Zellweger had to put on in order to play the part. And Bridget, she was slim. The whole storyline revolved around this idea that she thought she was a whale. And remember that unbelievable fat phobia that was rife on Friends? So many of my family and parents' friends were on Weight Watchers. It was very in to be fat-free. Diet foods were in abundance. And the amount of times I heard an adult around me say,
"Oh, I can't, I'm on a diet."
Diet culture was everywhere. It was in magazines, it was in movies, it was on TV advert, and I was convinced that I was hugely overweight. And probably that's because everything I saw and consumed told me that I needed to be thinner, however subtly. Spoiler alert, this is a picture of me at the time, and you can see that I'm probably not the size that I thought I was. So going back to the question, is thin back in? Now, having thought about this long and hard, I've come to the conclusion that I don't think thin ever went away. Yes, we are seeing this huge surge in thinness being back in social media. I guess the point when I started to see it really clearly was the time when Kim K wore that dress to the Met Gala. There she was with millions of followers glorifying the way that she had lost weight to actually fit into that dress. And whilst I fully believe her body, her choice, whatever Kim wants to do to her body, that's fine. But my worry is that she has so many young, impressionable girls following her. I know that if I was 16 and I needed to get into a party dress, I probably would have followed Kim K's diet in order to do so. After all, at that age, I was following all the magazine diets. Same thing, different decade. And just take a look at TikTok, which I think I've decided I hate. And you're seeing people search for things like heroin chic body. Why? Why are we glamorizing drug taking? Especially one that does unthinkable damage to people. And we're also seeing a huge rise in eating disorders. In the UK, there's been an 84% rise in hospital admissions for eating disorders. And let's not even start on the fact that Ozempic, which is a diabetes drug, is being touted as a way for the rich and famous to keep their body weight down. So yes, we are seeing this huge surge in thinness everywhere at the moment, but I'm going to argue that it never went away. Even if you look at the body trend through the 2000s, yes, a curvier body was in. You needed to have boobs and a nice shapely butt, but you needed to be slim at the same time. So you needed to have curves in all the right places. Your curves needed to be on your boobs and not your stomach, and your bum and not your thighs. Yeah, thinness, however subtly, has been there all along. So I'm going to conclude that that desire for thinness didn't really go away, but what I think did a very good job at covering it up was wellness culture. Yes, wellness culture. Having been in its clutches for quite a few years, trying to focus on my health and cutting out more and more foods for the sake of my health, I can firmly say that wellness culture is toxic. It lures you in a more insidious way because it's more subtle, much like diet culture does. I talk about my story in wellness culture in this video here, so if you want to find out a bit more about how I got sucked in, then this is a good one. So why do I think wellness culture is toxic? Good question. Well, I think it perpetuates the idea of being thin, but in a much more palatable way. So I think what happened over the 80s and the 90s, women started to get wise about diet. Maybe they saw that certain types of diets didn't work. They saw their friends gain and lose weight over and over again. That happens. So there was this clever rebranding, moving away from diets and diet culture to something that sounded better, something about your health and wellness.
Hey, we're not about weight loss, we're about your health and we're about your wellness.
It's more palatable to consumers because it's less blatantly fat phobic. But the problem is you're still prioritizing your shape and appearance over everything else. My opinion, it's a dangerous scam that seduces smart women with claims based on semi-science that you'll have increased energy, reduce your inflammation, and it's the panacea to heal all your health issues like hormones, your cancer risk, or acne. But truly, wellness culture is about being thin, perhaps with abs, perhaps with biceps, but there's definitely an assumption that health is about your shape and appearance. And much like diet culture, it's about encouraging people to dedicate their time, their money, their energy to changing their shape and appearance. Hashtag strong not skinny. So I think what wellness culture does, it sells the idea of weight loss, but just wrapped in a different package. It still perpetuates problematic standards of what beauty is. You're still obsessing, but this time with clean eating. You fixate on good versus bad foods, except the terminology is different. Now you're talking about clean foods, organic, whole foods versus toxic or processed. And wellness culture does perpetuate orthorexia. So my feeling is that wellness culture kind of covered up this idea of thin being in because it was packaged in such a different way. And whilst we are on the topic of weight, I really want to reiterate to you again that weight does not equal health. Personally, when I was closest to my ideal shape and appearance, I was suffering from orthorexia and I was technically underweight according to BMI. Although I will caveat this by saying that BMI isn't particularly accurate. If you want to find out more about that, you can check this video here. My mental health was suffering. I had digestive issues. I had no social life. On the outside, I appeared super healthy, but I can categorically say it wasn't healthy. My mental health was suffering. It was not healthy to live that way. And the research really corroborates this idea that weight doesn't necessarily equal health. There's some really fascinating research that uses a population of over 3 million people, and it shows that overall people in the quote unquote overweight category actually have the best long-term health outcomes. We are made to think that being quote unquote overweight is the worst possible thing. Yet if you look at the research, people in that category actually live longer than people in the normal and underweight categories. I've added a link to that research below just in case anyone wants to read it. There's also other research that shows that cardiovascular fitness is more important than weight. And this is exactly why when I work with clients, we focus on health promoting behaviors and not weight, because focusing on weight loss isn't sustainable. When people focus all their attention on weight, on measurement, they don't see immediate results, they give up or they go more extreme. It's not sustainable and diets do more harm than good. Again, watch this video here to find out more. And a large proportion of people that diet end up with disordered eating and some eating disorders. All of this to say that yes, thin does seem to be the latest body trend, but I actually don't think it ever went away. So I want you to know that trying to lose weight in order to fit with the latest body trend isn't good for your health. You are much better off focusing on things like eating more fruit and veg, getting enough sleep at night, or even making sure that you add enough movement to your day. As always, I have added some resources and some links for you to explore below. And there's 2 books that I recommend. One is called Diet Free Revolution, and it's an absolutely fantastic book talking about an approach to health that doesn't include dieting or restriction. Another fantastic book is Body Positive Power. This is basically a story about someone who goes through the experience of an eating disorder and how she comes out the other end. And if you're ready to make peace with food, then sign up to my free Food Freedom Masterclass, details below, and it looks like this. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and share it with anyone who you think might benefit from hearing this message. Bye for now.